My sister-in-law became so fixated on my pregnancy that she claimed she had a right to make parenting choices for my unborn child. We eventually hired a lawyer, and the law has since forced her to step back. My sister-in-law insisted the baby was essentially hers and behaved as though she were the one expecting. This is how the situation unfolded. After 4 years of marriage, Blake and I learned we were expecting our first child. Blake's older sister, Gertrude, lives with their parents about 30 minutes from us. She has never been married and does not have children. Before explaining what happened at my baby shower last Saturday, some background on Gertrude is important. She has always been intense. When Blake and I first started dating, she constantly questioned our relationship. She called and messaged him several times a day, asking where he was and who he was with. Blake later explained that Gertrude became overly watchful after their father left when Blake was 12 and Gertrude was 16. Their mother, Janet, worked 2 jobs, and Gertrude took on a parental role for Blake for several years. Gertrude works as a bookkeeper for a small accounting firm, but frequently talks about starting new businesses. Over the years, she has discussed selling handmade jewelry, launching a food truck, and opening a pet grooming service. She jumps from idea to idea, and none are ever completed. Blake has loaned her money multiple times, usually between $500 and $1,000. She always promises repayment, but it never happens. Her behavior became more difficult after Blake and I got engaged. She demanded involvement in every part of the wedding planning, including approving the venue, food, and my dress. When we declined her input, she accused me of changing Blake and pulling him away from his family. She arrived uninvited at my bridal shower and caused a scene because she was not included in the wedding party. I had chosen my 2 sisters and a close college friend as bridesmaids, which felt reasonable. At the wedding, Gertrude gave an unscheduled speech claiming she had always been the most important woman in Blake's life and hoped I understood how strong their bond was. The speech lasted about 10 minutes and made many guests uncomfortable. Blake addressed it afterward, but she acted as if nothing had happened. After announcing my pregnancy, her behavior escalated. She began buying baby items without asking what we needed. She arrived with suitcases of clothes, toys, and furniture, most of which were the wrong size or not items we would have chosen. When I said we planned to breastfeed, she bought formula and bottles anyway, saying she wanted to be ready for babysitting. We had never asked her to babysit. Blake and I had already agreed that my retired mother would provide childcare since she lived nearby. Gertrude seemed to assume she would be caring for the baby regularly, which made us uncomfortable given her history of not honoring commitments. She later asked Blake if she could plan my baby shower. At that point, my sister Amy and my mother-in-law Janet had already organized it. When Blake told her the shower was already planned, she accused me of intentionally excluding her. Blake suggested she help with setup, which she accepted reluctantly. In the days leading up to the shower, Gertrude sent me frequent messages with suggestions. Many were expensive or conflicted with our plans. The shower was held at a community hall near our home with about 30 guests. My mother arranged food and Janet organized activities. Everything was set up that morning. Gertrude arrived early with her own decorations and began rearranging the space. When Amy asked her to check with me first, Gertrude said she was only trying to help. She also brought a separate cake, even though we already had one. When guests arrived, she stood at the entrance acting as the host, greeting people and directing seating. She also brought her own guest book. Several friends asked me privately if she was co-hosting because her behavior was confusing. During gift opening, Gertrude insisted I open her gift first. It was a car seat, which we did need, but it was an expensive model she chose without consulting us. My parents had already bought the exact car seat we requested. When I thanked her and explained this, she appeared hurt and said she had spent weeks researching it. She then began talking about taking the baby places, setting up a nursery in her home, and having the baby stay overnight regularly. She listed days she would babysit and told me to plan appointments around her availability. Guests became visibly uncomfortable. When the topic shifted to the delivery, things escalated further. She stated she would be in the waiting room and among the first to hold the baby, adding that she had already taken time off work. When I explained that Blake and I wanted a private delivery and limited visitors, Gertrude became extremely upset. She insisted that as the baby's aunt, she had a right to be present. She cried, accused me of damaging family bonds, and said she had raised Blake, making this child like her own grandchild. The situation became tense, and some guests left. Blake eventually asked her to leave. After the shower, Blake and I discussed everything. He admitted he hadn't realized how uncomfortable her behavior had made me. We agreed he needed to establish boundaries. Since then, Gertrude has constantly called and texted, claiming we were cruel. She contacted Janet, who tried to mediate but didn't fully understand the issue. Blake explained to Gertrude that while we appreciated her excitement, decisions about childcare and visits were ours. She accused us of punishing her for caring too much. I worried about the impact on family relationships. Blake felt torn but supported me. Update 1. After another conversation where boundaries were reiterated, Gertrude appeared to agree, but her actions said otherwise. She showed up unannounced with more baby items, rearranged our nursery, and said she wanted to copy it at her house. She also contacted my doctor's office seeking information, claiming she was helping with childcare. I had to block her access to my medical records. She then involved other family members, portraying us as excluding her entirely. The most alarming incident occurred when she came to my workplace pretending to be a patient under a false name. During the appointment, she questioned me about my delivery plans. Blake later told her she was not allowed to contact me at work again. Gertrude sent a long email stating she believed she had rights as an aunt and had researched legal options. This was the breaking point. Blake warned her that continuing this behavior could result in no contact. Update 2. Our daughter Emma was born healthy. We kept the birth private, but Janet told Gertrude. Gertrude showed up at the hospital and caused a disturbance, requiring security intervention. Later, she waited in our driveway when we came home and tried to take Emma from the car seat. Police were called. She then posted photos of Emma online without permission, claiming she had a close relationship with her. Blake demanded the photos be removed. Later, she appeared at Emma's pediatric appointment and had to be escorted out by security. We began documenting everything and consulted a lawyer who advised that her behavior could be considered harassment. A formal letter was sent. Update 3. Gertrude's behavior continued to worsen. She began showing up repeatedly, demanding more involvement and claiming rights she did not have. She followed us in public places. At this point, we decided to limit all contact. Becoming a parent has brought unexpected family conflict. Gertrude's behavior has gone far beyond normal enthusiasm, and protecting our child and maintaining clear boundaries has become necessary, even when it comes at a personal cost. The most concerning incident happened when Gertrude followed us to a restaurant where we were meeting my parents for lunch. She sat at a nearby table directly facing us and stared at Emma the entire time. When my father asked her to leave, she replied that she had the right to remain in a public place and claimed she was not causing a disturbance. Throughout the meal, Gertrude watched our table and took photos of Emma with her phone. When we asked her to stop, she said she was only capturing memories of her niece. She explained that since we were not allowing her time with Emma, this was her only way to feel connected. This incident confirmed that Gertrude's behavior would not improve with time or patience. Her fixation on Emma had intensified, and she appeared to believe she had parental authority rather than the role of an aunt. Blake and I decided we had no choice but to pursue a restraining order. We gathered all documentation of her conduct, including the hospital disturbance, repeated unannounced visits, sharing photos without consent, appearing at medical appointments, and following us in public. Based on this pattern of harassment and refusal to respect boundaries, the restraining order was approved. The order requires Gertrude to remain at least 500 feet away from us, Emma, our home, and our workplaces. She is also prohibited from contacting us directly or indirectly through others. Gertrude reacted strongly to the order. She called Blake, crying and shouting that we were destroying the family. She insisted she had done nothing wrong and accused us of acting out of spite. She blamed me for influencing Blake and turning him against her. Janet was also extremely upset about the restraining order. She believed we had taken the situation too far and insisted that Gertrude was simply excited about Emma. Janet could not understand why we could not resolve the issue through conversation instead of legal action. She felt we were dividing the family over something that could have been addressed differently. Blake's family became divided following the restraining order. Some relatives supported our decision and acknowledged that Gertrude's behavior was unacceptable. Others believed we overreacted and should have been more patient with her adjustment to being an aunt. Blake's Aunt Helen was especially critical. She said Gertrude had always been emotional and that allowances should have been made for her personality. Helen also stated that Gertrude made sacrifices while helping raise Blake and felt we owed her more understanding. Blake struggled with the rift in his family. He loves his sister and never wanted the situation to escalate this far, but he also recognizes that her behavior was not normal. He has started attending counseling to process his feelings and cope with the family conflict. For the most part, Gertrude has followed the restraining order, though she has tried to work around it. She has been leaving gifts for Emma at Janet's home and asking Janet to pass them along. She has also written letters addressed to Emma, asking us to save them for the future. We asked Janet to stop delivering items or messages from Gertrude, as this goes against the intent of the restraining order. Janet was upset by this request and said she felt forced to choose between her children and her grandchild. Overall, the situation has stabilized somewhat. Gertrude has not directly violated the restraining order, and we have not had any unexpected encounters with her. However, relationships within the family remain strained, and it is unclear whether they can be repaired. Blake and I have agreed to focus on raising Emma and building our own family traditions. We have decided not to attend gatherings where Gertrude may be present and to limit contact with relatives who do not respect our boundaries. This experience has shown us that protecting your immediate family sometimes requires making difficult choices that others may not understand. Gertrude's behavior went far beyond normal excitement about becoming an aunt, and we had to act to protect Emma and ourselves. Emma is doing very well despite the family tension. She is a happy, healthy baby who is meeting all developmental milestones. Blake and I are enjoying parenthood and concentrating on providing a stable and loving home. We hope that Gertrude eventually seeks help and learns to respect boundaries, but we will not compromise Emma's safety or our family's peace while waiting. The restraining order remains active, and we are prepared to pursue additional legal steps if necessary. This has been one of the most challenging experiences we have faced, but it has reinforced the importance of prioritizing our immediate family's well-being over broader family expectations. We are moving forward and focusing on the positive aspects of becoming new parents. Now, moving on to the next story. Story 2. My wife demanded that I give half of my daughter's college fund to my stepson. When I refused, she went behind my back and did something illegal, which ultimately ended our marriage. I am 42 years old and was married to my wife Lauren, who is 39. We both had children from previous relationships. I have a daughter, Claire, and Lauren has a son, Jake. I have always made saving for Claire's future a priority. I grew up in a household that struggled financially, and I promised myself I would give my child a better start. When Claire was born, I was working an entry-level job. Her mother, Melissa, and I were not married, and our relationship was unstable. Despite the challenges, I opened a college savings account for Claire when she was just 1 month old. Those early years were difficult. Melissa and I separated when Claire was very young, and I became a full-time single father. I worked long hours during the week and bartended on weekends to support us. No matter how tight money was, I contributed something to Claire's college fund every month. Sometimes it was as little as $20, but I stayed consistent. As Claire grew older, I explained why I worked so much. We would sit together at the kitchen table, counting change from my tip jar and adding it to her savings. It became a meaningful routine for us. By the time I met Lauren, Claire's college fund had grown substantially. Lauren admired my discipline with money and shared her own financial struggles. Her ex-husband had left her with significant debt, making her cautious about combining finances. We agreed to keep our finances separate, which worked well. Jake was still young when we married. He is a good kid, but we never bonded deeply. He has a strong relationship with his biological father, whom he sees regularly. I often felt more like a supportive relative than a parent, but I still tried to include him in family life. Over time, I noticed Lauren was not saving for Jake's future. She earns good money as a real estate agent, but spends heavily on luxury items, vacations, and home upgrades. I occasionally suggested starting a college fund for Jake, but she brushed it off, saying there was plenty of time. Claire is now finishing high school and preparing for college. She has been an outstanding student, taking advanced classes, participating in extracurricular activities, and volunteering at an animal shelter. Her efforts paid off when she was accepted into several top universities. I sat down with her to explain her college fund so she could make informed decisions. When she saw the balance, she was shocked. I told her it would cover tuition and most living expenses for all 4 years at her top choice school. She hugged me and cried, overwhelmed with gratitude. That night, I shared the moment with Lauren at dinner. Instead of celebrating, she went quiet and then asked how Jake was supposed to pay for college. I assumed she had a plan, but she admitted she had not saved anything. She then suggested splitting Claire's fund between both kids. I was stunned. I explained that the money was meant solely for Claire and had been saved long before I met Lauren or Jake. Lauren accused me of not treating Jake as my own child and claimed I was showing favoritism. I tried to explain that it was about honoring a promise I made to Claire, not about loving Jake less. The argument escalated quickly. Jake overheard and became angry, saying he had always felt like an outsider. Claire later offered to split her fund, which broke my heart. I reassured her that the money was hers and not up for discussion. Tension filled the house. Lauren continued pressuring me to split the fund, while Jake avoided me and Claire walked on eggshells. I suggested alternative options for Jake, such as scholarships or trade school, but Lauren rejected them. Jake had shown interest in becoming an electrician, which I supported, but Lauren insisted on a 4-year college path. Update 1. The situation worsened. Communication broke down, and one day I came home early to find Lauren and Jake applying for credit cards and loans in my name. They planned to use the money for Jake's education. I was furious and immediately shut everything down. I left to stay with my brother and reflected on our relationship. I realized I had ignored red flags about Lauren's spending habits and expectations. I returned home and told Lauren her actions were a deal breaker. I asked for a divorce. She begged and accused me of abandoning the family, but I stood firm. This was about trust and values, not money. I spoke privately with Claire and Jake. Claire understood and supported me. Jake apologized and admitted his mother pressured him. We talked honestly about his future, and I offered to help him pursue trade school. Update 2. The divorce was finalized. During the process, I discovered Lauren had hidden significant debt. The constant tension at home, repeated arguments over money, and the embarrassment of our electricity being shut off more than once reinforced why I was so committed to creating financial stability for Claire. She has now started her freshman year at her dream university. She is majoring in marine biology and genuinely enjoys her coursework. Every Sunday, she calls to share updates about her classes, new friendships, and her part-time job at the campus aquarium. Hearing her enthusiasm makes the years of saving and the difficulties that followed feel worthwhile. There have been a few challenges along the way. Adjusting to a roommate was difficult at first, and her biology classes have been more demanding than she expected. Still, she approaches each obstacle with determination and a positive mindset. I am very proud of how she handles herself. As for Jake, our relationship has actually grown stronger since the divorce. Without the pressure of forcing a father-son dynamic, we developed a more natural mentor-style connection. He works full-time at a local auto shop and attends community college. We meet for lunch every few weeks, and he has opened up about his goals and concerns for the future. I have been helping him learn how to budget and save, and he seems receptive to the guidance. We have also been researching electrician apprenticeship programs together, and he is becoming excited about those possibilities. Lauren, on the other hand, has struggled since the divorce. To manage her debt, she downsized her living situation and took on a second job. She has attempted to contact me several times, alternating between apologizing and assigning blame. I have established firm boundaries and only communicate with her when absolutely necessary for divorce-related matters. One unexpected incident occurred when Lauren showed up at my new apartment, seemingly intoxicated. She was emotional and pleaded with me to take her back, claiming she now understood her mistakes. While it was difficult to see her in that state, I remained firm and contacted her sister to pick her up. I hope she eventually gets the help she needs, especially for Jake's sake. I have started dating again, though nothing serious so far. It has been healthy to socialize again. I met Sophie through a local book club, and we have gone on a few casual dates. We enjoy each other's company, but I am being extremely careful this time, particularly when it comes to blending families. Claire remains my top priority, and I will not risk her safety or future again. Despite everything, Claire and Jake have remained on friendly terms. They occasionally text and even met for coffee while Claire was home during autumn break. Seeing them support one another means a great deal to me. Overall, life has settled into a new routine. It is not perfect, and there are moments of stress and uncertainty, but I believe I am moving in the right direction. I am focused on being the best father possible to Claire and a supportive presence in Jake's life. I am also rebuilding my own life after divorce, reconnecting with old interests, and forming new friendships. This experience has reinforced the importance of clear communication and shared values in any partnership. It has also strengthened my belief in planning ahead and staying true to your principles during difficult times. Watching Claire succeed in college reassures me that protecting her future was the right decision. That situation was difficult, but the next story may be even more extreme. My wife had an affair with a club DJ. I drank whiskey, contacted a private investigator, and ultimately dismantled her public image using a single flash drive. After a night at a club with the man she was secretly seeing, my wife woke up in the hospital with a broken leg and a disturbing message carved into her back. 3 words were etched into her skin above her spine: property of a liar. While she was in intensive care, surrounded by medical equipment and police officers questioned staff in the waiting area, I was at home sitting by the fireplace with Candace, the DJ's wife. We watched local news coverage as early reports of the club incident aired. My phone rang. A detective introduced himself and asked if I would answer a few questions. I agreed calmly, explaining that I had a solid alibi. Candace and I had receipts, video evidence, and witnesses confirming we were together at a restaurant at the time. I made it clear I had not physically harmed anyone. However, I acknowledged that I had played a strategic role in exposing what had happened. This situation did not begin with violence or police involvement. It started quietly, with emotional distance, guarded behavior, and unfamiliar perfume. My wife, Madison, had always been spontaneous and intense. That same intensity eventually turned destructive. About 6 months earlier, her habits changed. Nights out became more frequent, and I was reduced to the predictable spouse focused on work and responsibilities. The man she became involved with was Tyler King, an aspiring DJ who valued appearances and status. He represented excitement and recklessness, everything she believed she was missing. I did not discover the affair through messages or catching them together. I noticed her laugh. It was a forced, high-pitched giggle she only used when seeking attention. I overheard it while she was on the phone. I chose not to confront her immediately. Instead, I observed. I documented inconsistencies, unexplained absences, and ride shares taken late at night. She assumed she was being discreet. When she told a story about a night out, I noticed a reflection in her sunglasses that confirmed Tyler's involvement. At that point, I decided to take control. I contacted Candace, Tyler's wife. She had already suspected something but lacked proof. Once I shared what I had collected, we worked together. Our goal was not public chaos, but undeniable exposure. The club environment provided the setting. The message carved into Madison's back was Candace's idea. She believed Madison needed a permanent reminder of her actions. Madison was later found injured and distressed. Tyler was also harmed during the incident. When police arrived, I cooperated fully and provided evidence confirming my whereabouts. Madison was unaware of the extent of what was unfolding. When she regained consciousness in the hospital, she expected sympathy. Instead, I confronted her with questions about her whereabouts that night. She claimed memory loss and suggested she had been drugged. I informed her that the message on her bag was intentional. Candace entered the hospital room, and Madison immediately understood the situation. We presented her with footage from the club's security cameras. The evidence documented her affair in detail. I informed her that I was filing for divorce and that her professional partnerships would be affected once the footage became public. After leaving the hospital, Candace and I parted ways. I focused on removing myself from the situation. I took time off work, traveled briefly, and left the house empty. I wanted Madison to experience the same uncertainty and isolation I had endured. For several days, I did not respond to her attempts to contact me. When I eventually returned, Madison was emotionally exhausted and desperate to talk. She admitted to the affair and tried to justify it as boredom and fear. I made it clear that repeated choices, not a single mistake, led to this outcome. I informed her that the divorce process was already underway and that her sponsors had been notified. Before leaving permanently, she asked if I had orchestrated what happened at the club. I did not confirm or deny it. I walked out and ended all contact. In the following weeks, Madison's public image collapsed. Sponsorships were withdrawn, online support vanished, and leaked messages circulated widely. I did not engage publicly. I moved into a quiet apartment and focused on rebuilding my life. Eventually, Madison contacted me again, claiming she was being followed and harassed. I dismissed her concerns at first, assuming paranoia. However, Candace later informed me that Madison had been injured again. This raised serious questions. Candace and I met privately. She revealed that Tyler had been involved in various scams and owed money to dangerous individuals. One name stood out in her research, a man recently released from prison. It became clear that someone else may have taken things further than intended. This was not part of the plan. That was never part of the plan. I wanted her exposed and publicly disgraced online, not seriously harmed in a parking lot. Candace sat beside me and said something I did not expect. "You should warn her." I laughed sharply. After everything she did to us, Candace looked at me differently then, calmer, steadier. "This isn't about forgiveness," she said. "It's about not becoming what they are. We planned retaliation, not annihilation." I looked at her and recognized that expression. There was no sympathy or affection in it, only the look of someone who had already been through the fire and refused to let someone else burn the same way. The next morning I made the call. Madison answered immediately. "Ethan." Her voice sounded exhausted. "Listen carefully," I said. "You are in danger, and it has nothing to do with me. Tyler crossed someone badly. His name is Brandon Malloy." There was silence, then a quiet response. "I know that name. Tyler mentioned him once. He said the man threatened to kill him if he ever got out." "Well," I replied, "he's out now, and he may believe you were part of Tyler's schemes." She didn't respond. "I'm not calling again," I said. "Leave town immediately." I ended the call before she could reply. As much as I despised her, I was not willing to let her die like that. What I didn't realize was that Brandon wasn't just after her. He was hunting anyone connected to Tyler. That included me. I believed I was finished, detached, and free. Brandon Malloy clearly disagreed. It started with a note. No envelope, no return address, just a piece of paper shoved under my apartment door, written in thick black ink. "You played a part. Now pay the price." I stared at it for a long time. The handwriting was sharp and aggressive, as if each letter had been carved. I didn't panic. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I checked the hallway security cameras. The footage cut out between 2:16 and 2:24 a.m., a perfect blackout window. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. This was no longer just Madison's problem. I called Candace. She answered on the second ring. "He found me too," she said. "There was a dead bird on my porch this morning. Its neck was snapped." That confirmed it. "We need to meet," I said. "Figure out how far this goes." "No," she replied. "We need to disappear. This is serious now." She was right, but I wasn't ready to run. Not yet. This wasn't just a threat, it was a message, and messages are meant to be understood. I contacted an old college friend, Drew, now deeply involved in cybersecurity. Drew had a talent for uncovering hidden trails. I sent him the note and everything Candace had uncovered: names, dates, financial records. A day later, he called me back. "Ethan, you're on a list." "What kind of list?" "Brandon kept records in prison, names, connections, yours, Candace's, Madison's. Some names are marked in red." "What does red mean?" "Inmate code. Red means final." My hand started shaking. "He's not seeking revenge," Drew said. "He thinks he's cleansing corruption. Truth doesn't matter to him. This wasn't personal anger, it was a campaign." That night, I packed essentials, replaced my phone, wiped my devices, and did something I said I wouldn't do. I called Madison again. "You need to leave tonight," I told her. "I already did," she said. "I'm 2 states away." "We're all targets now," I explained. After a pause, she asked quietly, "Do you think I deserve this?" "No," I said. "You deserve accountability, not execution." Candace and I met one final time. No emotion, no sentiment, just logistics. "We disappear," she said. "No digital traces, no contact." Before leaving, she added softly, "If we survive this, we never talk about Tyler again." I nodded, knowing deep down that silence would not be the ending. I should have vanished, taken the new identity, and walked away. But being hunted creates a different fear. Not knowing when it ends is worse than facing it. So I stopped running. I contacted Marcus Wells, former military, former inmate, now a private security specialist who handles problems quietly. I cashed in a favor. "Brandon Malloy," I told him. "He's circling. I need him stopped." 3 days later, I got a message. Found him. Philadelphia. Alone. I booked a one-way flight. I didn't plan to fight. I needed closure. The meeting happened in an abandoned warehouse. Marcus stayed outside. Brandon sat waiting, calm, armed. He knew my name. He said I helped ruin him. I told him this ends now. He laughed. I offered a deal. Leave Candace and Madison alone. Disappear. I gave him Tyler's encrypted files. Everything. His expression changed. After a long silence, he agreed. Just like that, it ended. Madison never called again. Candace vanished as promised. Silence followed. What did I learn? Betrayal leaves scars no one sees. Love can be as destructive as hate. Revenge doesn't heal. It only frees. If you're wondering what to do when someone betrays you, here's the truth. Justice isn't loud. It's final. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more stories. Unbelievable, right? Let's move on to the next one. My twin slept with my girlfriend, got me kicked out at 17, and now my family wants me back because I'm in my grandfather's will. After 8 years of no contact, my family suddenly invited me, my wife, and my daughter for Christmas. I'm the youngest of 4. Growing up, I was always the outsider. My family excelled in sports. I preferred archery, which they dismissed. They rarely attended my events. When I raised concerns, I was called attention-seeking. At 15, I dated Amy. Nearly 2 years later, I learned she was cheating. The other man was my twin brother. When I confronted him, I lost control and hit him. Instead of pressing charges, my family sent me away to live with my aunt. I rebuilt my life. New school, college, career, marriage, a daughter. Then suddenly, my parents reached out. My siblings sent friend requests. My wife chose not to go. She's pregnant and avoiding stress. I investigated why they reached out. My aunt revealed the truth. My grandfather threatened to remove them from his will unless they reconciled with me. They hadn't changed. They were desperate. I blocked them. Then my grandfather called. He apologized. He said he was changing his will. Then he criticized my daughter's surname. I snapped. I told him never to call again. Money won't buy control. Even if I receive it, I'll donate it. That concludes the first story. Now the next. My ex abandoned me and our daughter 10 years ago. She's back now, alone and sick, asking to be a family again. Lucy and I had a child together. Life was perfect. Then she confessed to cheating for 2 years and left. My daughter was devastated. We rebuilt. Therapy helped. We were happy. Then Lucy returned. She told me about her failed relationships and how illness made her realize she was alone. She wanted to come back. My daughter asked me one question: can you truly love someone who hurt us this much? That was my answer. I told Lucy we would never reunite. She tried to seduce me. She became angry. And that's when I realized she was no longer the woman I once loved. She was someone else entirely. Where were you when she was sick? Where were you when she had a fever? Who was there when she was afraid at night? When her first tooth fell out, where were you? When she cried because she missed her mother, were you there? Did you show up on her first day of school? When she got her first period, where were you? When she had her first boyfriend? When her heart broke again? Not just because of a boy, but because her mother had already hurt her first. What were you writing, and to whom, when she needed a mother? You have no right to claim that role when you never lived it. She tried to answer, but I could tell she couldn't find the words. I left. Later, back at home, she texted me asking to meet again and begging for another chance. She said she loved me and was willing to change. But I'm done. Many of you were right. She doesn't love me or our daughter. She loves herself. Keeping her in our lives would only be harmful and toxic. I don't need that. I don't need her. My daughter and I are going back to therapy soon. Some of you were right about that too. I need to focus on myself, grow stronger, and let go of the feelings I still had for her, because those feelings weren't real. They were only memories of who I believed she was. Thank you for watching and for following this intense family story. If you enjoy Reddit family drama, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. If you thought that was bad, the next story is on another level. He called me his servant in front of everyone, so I moved out without saying a word. Now he's broke, and his mother won't stop calling me. Hello, my name is Serena. I'm 27 years old. My boyfriend Albert is 28. We'd been together for almost 2 years, and we'd lived together for about 13 months. It wasn't some romantic decision. It was practical. His lease ended, my apartment was falling apart, and at first, I thought living together would be fun. For a while, it was, until it wasn't. This weekend, we were invited to a party by Claire, our landlord's daughter. We weren't close friends. She mostly communicates through group messages about rent. Albert was excited, saying it would be good for networking, which he says about almost everything. I agreed because I hadn't gone out in weeks and assumed there would be snacks and an easy exit if it got boring. The place was nicer than expected. Not luxury level, but real glassware, decent music, and an atmosphere that immediately felt off. Everyone seemed to know each other except us. Albert acted like he was performing, laughing loudly and pushing me to socialize. I was there mainly for the chips. I chatted briefly with Claire about apartment issues. Meanwhile, Albert was already on his second drink. I joked about him working hard on a Saturday, and he replied that he needed a break from my nagging. No smile. It stung, but I let it go. Lately, his remarks had become sharper. About half an hour in, I realized I was trailing behind him, picking up after him, while he joked with people I didn't know. I heard him say I kept the place clean for him, not as praise, but as a joke at my expense. Then he added that he never worried about rent because I handled everything. People laughed awkwardly. He winked at me. I went to the kitchen, upset. Albert has always hidden cruelty behind jokes. If I called him out, he'd say I was too sensitive. He never forgot my mistakes, but dismissed his own. By 11 p.m., he was clearly drunk. I suggested water. He ignored me and got louder. Claire asked quietly if he was always like this. I shrugged and made excuses. Then someone mentioned living with partners. Albert stood up, raised his drink, and announced that I was basically his maid with benefits, good for cleaning and paying rent, but boring otherwise. The room froze. Some people laughed nervously. I stood up to leave. He grabbed my wrist, not painfully, but enough to stop me. He told everyone I didn't even have the nerve to walk away and shook my purse in the air. People laughed. My face burned. I pulled free and sat back down, refusing to cry in front of them. For the next hour, I barely moved. I stared at my phone, replaying every moment I had covered his responsibilities. This was the same man who once brought me coffee in bed. Now I was the punchline. Eventually, people checked on me. Claire told me I didn't have to stay. Albert blocked the hallway every time I tried to leave. Even Claire had to push past him. That's when I realized it wasn't just me. He needed attention, and when he didn't get it, he ruined the room. Around 2 a.m., I finally left. He muttered something as I walked past. Outside, Claire handed me my charger and avoided eye contact. I walked home alone, replaying everything. At home, I went straight to bed. When Albert came in, he slammed the door and ignored me. I lay there writing notes, too angry to sleep. That was my Saturday night. Update 1. I woke up to dozens of missed calls from his parents. Albert was asleep on the couch. The kitchen was a disaster. Cups, dishes, sticky counters. I realized I was always the one cleaning. I considered my options and decided I wanted him to feel the consequences. I made a list of everything I'd paid for: rent, bills, supplies. The list was long. I took photos of what was mine. Most of the apartment was. I packed small items and stored them with my friend Avery. Albert barely noticed. He joked, scrolled, and ignored me. When he said he didn't remember the party, I told him he said enough. He called it a joke. I stayed silent. I started packing more. Claire confirmed that only Albert was on the lease. That meant the rent was his responsibility. The next morning, while he was at the gym, I moved the rest. I left a note listing what he owed and my keys in the mailbox. I didn't look back. Albert panicked. Messages, calls, accusations. I blocked him and his family. Claire told me he hadn't paid rent. His friends stopped defending him once they saw proof. His landlord gave him a deadline. Update 2. His parents tried contacting my mother. She shut it down. Albert alternated between rage and apologies. No one stepped in to fix things for him anymore. Eventually, he was evicted. He tried showing up at my place. I didn't answer the door. He left a letter begging for another chance. I threw it away. I'm done cleaning up after him. If you're the Serena in your relationship, you don't owe anyone your sanity or your credit score. And the drama doesn't stop there. My father called my career filthy, cut me out of the family inheritance, then asked me for $120,000 when my brother destroyed the business. My name is Henry. I'm 30, and I manage a pet care chain in New York. From the outside, my life looks stable, but I left my family a year ago. On Easter Sunday, my father announced that everything would go to my younger brother, Mateo. No one even acknowledged me. I thought we were raised equally. That changed when I told my father I wanted to study veterinary medicine. He refused to support me. From that point on, I slowly became invisible. Years later, when the company struggled, my father asked me for $80,000. He promised I'd still have a share someday. I trusted him and sent the money. At Easter, when he gave everything to Mateo, I finally spoke up. My father said I chose filthy animals over the family business. I reminded him that those animals paid for the money that saved his company. He called me an embarrassment. That was the moment I walked away. That night, I thought about how I left home at 18 with nothing, how I struggled, how I built something on my own. Then by accident, I posted a pet care video online. It went viral. One video turned into millions of followers, sponsors, and eventually my own business, Whisker and Paw. I built it on kindness, something my family never gave me.